Internet! Today I'm here to share my TBR for the upcoming N.E.W.T.s readathon. This is a pretty popular readathon, but for those of you who may not know, this readathon is inspired by the N.E.W.T.s exams, or the nastily exhausting wizarding tests that 7th years take at Hogwarts. The first readathon based on the OWL exams was in April, and in the month of August we're going to be doing our N.E.W.T.s. If this makes absolutely no sense to you, I'm going to leave the announcement video in the description because the host G does a much better job of explaining it than I do. When G created the readathon this time around, she made a booklet of wizarding careers that we could choose to strive for if we wanted to, that would kind of like influence our reading. And I chose the librarian career back in April when I was doing my OWLs. So there are certain subjects that I will have to study and a certain grade that I will have to achieve for those subjects in order to become a librarian, essentially. I am going to need to get an outstanding in ancient runes, an E in Defense Against the Dark Arts, and an E in History of Magic. So that totals up to 7 books total that I will have to complete for this round of the readathon. And without further ado, let's just jump into it. So I'm going to start with ancient runes, and the first prompt is based on Ewas? I'm not really sure. It's to read a book recommended by a friend. I actually tweeted out looking for recommendations, and every single recommendation I got on Twitter was for a book that I didn't own, which is specifically what I was looking for. Not that everybody knows my bookshelves, but I wasn't really sure what to do for this one, and then I remembered that I've had several people tell me, just like IRL, that I really needed to finish the Stalking Jack the Ripper series, and it just so happens that I have not read the 3rd book yet, which is Escaping from Houdini by Carrie Maniscalco, and so I decided to use this book for this challenge. I've been liking these books. I'm not as into them as a lot of people are, but I am very curious to see where the story goes, especially because the final book, which is called Capturing the Devil, I think, comes out this fall. So if I read this, then I'll be all caught up to be able to read the last book. So that'll be great. So I'm looking forward to finally having an excuse to dive into this one. To get an E in Ancient Runes, I have to read a book that's written in past tense. My first thought for this one was, of course, historical fiction, which I don't have a lot of, but I do have one historical fiction book that is on my top 10 list of books I want to read in 2019 that I haven't gotten to yet, and that is The Hamilton Affair by Elizabeth Cobbs. I'm obsessed with Hamilton, like a lot of the population. And I bought this when I was kind of first going through my Hamilton phase, and I haven't read it. I think this will be a good excuse to pick this one up. I really haven't heard a lot of people talk about it, so I don't actually know if I should expect for it to be good or not, but I am very intrigued nonetheless. Now I listen to dogs bark for God knows how long. And to get an O in Ancient Ruins, I have to read a book that has been on my TBR for ages. For this one, I have chosen a book that I bought like when I first started my channel, which is The Secret Diary of Lizzie Bennet by Bernie Sue and Kate Rorick. This is based off of the Lizzie Bennet Diaries, which is an adaptation on YouTube of Pride and Prejudice that I was obsessed with back in the day, and I still really, really love. And I've been very curious to read this ever since I heard it was a thing. I think this is supposed to like dig a little deeper into what's happening in the Lizzie Bennet Diaries. So I may actually like kind of rewatch the show as I read it. All the episodes are like super short. They're like 3 or 4 minutes, so it wouldn't be that hard to rewatch that too. But I actually decided to listen to the audiobook for this one because Ashley Clements, who plays Lizzie Bennet, narrates it. So I think this will be a really fun audiobook to listen to, and I'm gonna need lots of audiobooks this month because I'm going on vacation and I can't read on planes. So yeah. So that's it for that subject, and now we're gonna move on to Defense Against the Dark Arts. To get an A in Defense Against the Dark Arts, I have to read a book that's black under the dust jacket. I wanted to get a few short books on this list, if nothing else, so I chose Dear Martin by Nick Stone for this. I believe this is a YA contemporary about a boy who writes letters to Martin Luther King Jr. It's very short, it's black under the dust jacket, and actually I am going to LeakyCon on my vacation, and Nick Stone is one of the authors that's going to be at LeakyCon, so I'm planning on taking this with me and reading it then, just because I want to get it signed anyway, and that's convenient. So that worked out perfect for this challenge. To get an E in Defense Against the Dark Arts, the E prompt is based on Gilderoy's Memory Charm. You are supposed to read the first book that you remember just now from your TBR, which when I originally found out what all of the prompts are, for me that book was The Gilded Wolves by Roshani Chokshi. This is a YA book. I believe it has to do with a heist. That's all I really know about it. I've heard mixed things, but I'm still very intrigued. It's got a beautiful cover. I think I'd like recently watched a vlog of somebody reading this when the prompts came out, and that's why it came to mind, but whatever. I'm excited to give it a shot. I need to read more of my Owl Crate books, and this is one of them, so there you go. And I don't have to get an O in Defense Against the Dark Arts in order to become a librarian, but on the off chance I read all of my TBR, the O prompt is based on The Cornish Pixie, which is to read a book written by an English author or set in England. I have a lot of books on my TBR that are by English authors or set in England, so if I manage to get through all my TBR, I'll find something to read, and that way I can be an overachiever or something. And my last subject is History of Magic, so to get an A in History of Magic, I have to read a fantasy. And again, I went back to my top 10 list of books I want to read in 2019 for this, because I'm super behind on it, and I did have another fantasy on that list that I have not read yet, and that is An Ember in the Ashes by Saba Tahir. I feel like everyone's read this but me, but I'm excited to read it. I don't really know a whole lot about it. I know it's a YA fantasy series. There's 3 books out now. I know that for the most part people really love this series, so I'm hoping I really like it too. I'm hoping that I'll be introduced to a new fantasy series for me to start keeping up with, and yeah. That's all I got. And to get an E in History of Magic, I have to read a book that includes a map. For this one, I chose The Blood Spell by C.J. Redwine. This is the 4th book in a series of companion fairy tale retellings. And the reason I picked this book is because I adore the maps in each one. I think they're so pretty. They always match the color of the cover, and I love them. I really enjoy this series. I've liked all 3 of the other books, so I'm very interested to get to this one. This is a Cinderella retelling, and I'm going to be listening to this one, I know for sure, on audio as well. Excited to finally finish what's been published of this series. I don't know if there are any more books coming out. I hope so. But I'm excited about this one. And again, I don't have to get an O in History of Magic, but on the off chance I complete my TBR, the prompt for an O is based on Tom Riddle's diary, which is to reread a favorite or read a classic if you prefer. To be honest, I've been really wanting to reread The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, so if I finish my entire TBR, magically if I read all 7 books in August, I'm gonna treat myself and I'm gonna reread Evelyn Hugo. Probably won't happen. I can reread it later in the year, but that's my plan. So let me know down in the comments if you are participating in this readathon, because I really enjoy watching TBR videos or like hearing about people's TBRs, seeing pictures, and I want to know what you're reading. So let me know, and I will see you guys next time with another video. Bye!